Hello, everyone. I wanted to go through my first month of Hemlock and Oak 2026 Daily Duo. This is the January to June book, so it's book one of two for the year. And I just wanted to go through it and kind of give my reviews of how I think it's going for me. Just an overview of January and how I've been using the planner itself and just on the paper quality, because I know in my previous videos I kind of touched on the quality of the papers being one of the primary drivers for why I decided to lock in with Hemlock and Oak. And I've been using it for a little bit, and I just wanted to kind of give some feedbacks post using it. And then just really wanted to kind of give an overview of kind of how January is going. So let's kind of get started and see. I will say that this little elastic band add-on, I think was an extra, I want to say it's under $10 Canadian for sure. And I do like it, but I would say if you have the hardcover, I'm not sure how valuable it is to have it on your book. I guess it really depends on how you use your planner, because if you're using it where you are jamming a lot of loose pieces in there, maybe you have a lot of little tip-ins like this kind of dividers, then you might want a elastic band to kind of secure it. The only thing I don't like about this versus other books that I've used or other planners is that this one, there's a pro and con actually. This one is great because you can remove it from the book itself, from your planner, and you can add it to your other Hemlock and Oak. So likely I'll probably move this to my part two when July 1st hits and use it for my second book. The other thing that's great is that even if this elastic kind of comes out, you can see here, there's a little sort of like gap here. You can easily tuck it and slide it back in so it stays like that. The drawback that I find that I have with the um, elastic band is that it just kind of like slips off really easily, and it's not really doing me any sort of service per se based on how I use the journal itself. That being said, it is great. I do love the customizable features of it because I could have ordered a yellow band, I could have ordered a purple band. It's really up to your own personal preferences, which I really enjoy about that. And let's just kind of give a little bit of like a, applause and celebration for the beauty of this book. Like, this witching hour fabric is so stunning. I just love the glitter in it, and I love the black, and it's just very, I mean, it's aptly named as well. But it's stunning. I love it. And I felt like the hardcover book, wasn't sure how it would hold up, but you can see here the spine is still doing fairly well. You can see my used pages versus my new pages. Um, Overall, held up so far so good. We will see once we kind of get more into like the beginning of Q2 and into Q2 and kind of see how the spine holds up then. But I will definitely come back and share when we get there. But you can see it's fairly decent. And so if we go into the book itself, so I have a few things here. So I created my own little focus every year. For the year, I have a word for the year to kind of help me intentionally set my path for the year. I can't say that I'm always on top of it or remember it throughout the year, because like anything else, you just get pulled in all multitude of ways and stuff. But I'm really trying to hone in on discipline over distraction, meaning, which is also kind of funny or ironic, I guess, because I'm trying to limit my screen time, but I'm here building YouTube videos and stuff. So I totally understand that. But I mean, it's a side passion. But so these are some of the things that I want to continue to build in my life, especially for 2026. And these things are kind of core to sort of what I've wanted for the last several years. So it really is more just about habit building and making it consistent so that it becomes part of my daily versus being a to-do list itself. And throughout, you'll see the wonderful Coffee Monsters Co. stickers and decals and stuff, because I really love their things, even though sometimes I'm like, why am I a 45-year-old woman using, cartoony stickers and stuff? But like, who cares? Um, I just find them joyful, and I honestly just feel like they capture moods so well. Like, nothing helps more when I'm journaling and I can slap an emoji head that bears the expression that is capturing how I feel than a Coffee Monsters emoji. I just love them that much. And I just love Helen's designs, and I love her customer service and the community. Honestly, fantastic place to be. So here I have the main page. Again, I don't do much with it. I put in a little quote here from Marilyn Monroe here. And it says, "This life is what you make it. No matter what, you're going to mess up sometimes. It's a universal truth. But the good part is you get to decide how you're going to mess up. Girls will be your friends, they'll act like it anyways. But just remember, some come and go. The ones that stay with you through everything, they're your true best friends. Don't let go of them. As for lovers, well, they'll come and go too. And babe, I hate to say it, most of them, actually pretty much all of them, are going to break your heart. But you can't give up, because if you give up, you'll never find your soulmate. You'll never find that half who makes you whole, and that goes for everything. Just because you fail once doesn't mean you're going to fail at everything. Keep trying, hold on, and always, always, always believe in yourself. Because if you don't, then who will, sweetie? So keep your head high, keep your chin up, and most importantly, keep smiling, because life's a beautiful thing and there's so much to smile about." I just love that quote because it's not just about relationships, it's really about anything in life. And it's just hold on to hope and hold on to the good things in life, because that's really going to be what keeps us going through life itself. So the monthly calendar, I decided to do, I wasn't going to do much with it. I know there's a lot of ideas online. I'm really trying to keep my journal minimalistic as best I can this year too, and really focus on journaling and getting my thoughts out and processing them that way. And the stickers just kind of help add a creative element to it. And I also will art journal where I can. But as you'll see through the pages, that I'm learning kind of what medium does well and what medium doesn't in the pages itself. So this next page here is just a calendar page for 2026 and 2027. I wasn't actually going to do anything with it, mainly because I had no creative ideas on what to do with it. And so I'm just deciding to capture Aunt Flo, is what I call her, in the months here, just so I can kind of have a tracker. I had it in my previous journal, and I really like being able to see sort of when it came, even though I do track it digitally. So it's not that important that I do track it in here, but just thought everything at a glance in one book was kind of nice. The next page is sort of the month tracker. I don't, again, I wasn't quite sure what to do with this page. I wanted to use it because I didn't want to waste it. And I've seen other planners where they put in or stamp in or draw in books, like a bookshelf, and they kind of mark off the books that they've read. I really like that idea, but I just don't read voraciously enough where I would fill it for, especially over 6 months. I might have 3 books in this whole 6 months here. But what I like to do with it was I wanted to track, kind of capture and track, anything that's where I'm like learning. So it's really about, books that I've read, workshops that I've taken, certifications, that sort of thing. So just so I could see at a glance, like, am I actually doing the work to consistently grow myself? Because that's really an area that I value, is, just personal and professional growth. So really tracking it here. Another idea that I really liked that I may or may not start using in my part 2 book is I saw that someone, because these, if you look at the calendar here, you can see that the months or the weeks line up evenly with these, I don't know, boxes or the grid that you get here. And so what they did was they basically created like mini trackers. So I think you could fit 3 or 4 in here. I can't remember how she had it. Whatever this divides up into. And she created trackers, and then she just like dotted, when, if it was like walking, and then she dotted in the date. So it's mirrored basically this times 4, if that makes sense. That probably wasn't very clear. But I thought that was a great idea. So if I don't do it in phase 2 or part 2 of 2026, then I might, if I continue to use Hemlock and Oak, I will continue and maybe try that method out, because I also really like that. Going into the next page here is the quarterly pages. And so this is where you have Q1 and Q2 mapped out. This is a tip in that I added. Hemlock and Oak is wonderful for providing printables for their planners, which I love, because, and it's not like you're saving money. So I looked into them like, oh, maybe I'll like save some money and not buy the book, and I'll just print them out and put them in a binder. But if I take it to, so I'm in Edmonton, and if I take it to Staples, it was still upwards of, $60+ just to print out the pages. And I know you could do it at home too, but again, that's also printer ink, right? Like, how many pages can I print? And realistically, it's probably easier for me to have it already done for me versus me printing one at a time, or going ahead and printing the entire book, which then may as well just buy the book itself in that sense. So, but what I really liked about it is I could print off, because I really like tracking. In my previous planner, I had a page or a layout that tracked important dates. And so I used it to track birthdays and travel and whatnot. And so this was a great way for me to print out the Q and Q2, tip it in, and log birthday, so I didn't miss a loved one's birthday. And then on here was the hat. I used it for habits. So you can see here in the habits, we have a January here. And so what I'm tracking is lift weighting, flexibility, mobility, walking 7 to 10,000 steps, red light therapy, sleep by 10:30, and the hours of sleep because I'm looking at quality and quantity, and then posting on YouTube. So while I really wanted to use all, I think it's 8 of these. I don't know how many grids there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 11 columns, and I wanted to use all of them. But these lovely tiny icons from Coffee Monsters were just slightly bigger than the column width. And so I kind of sat and ho-hummed, and I was like, realistically, 6 habits is more than manageable. Like more than manageable. Like anything more is just a lot of to-dos that I have to do on the daily. And so I decided to just do my top 6. And that's what I have here. And so you can see that January is a little bit non-existent for quite a lot of things. So things to work on. But this is a great way to kind of view and be like, if I didn't have this tracked, I might anecdotally be like, oh yeah, I'm getting in my steps and I'm totally getting my hours of sleep in. But this gives me data to be like, hey, Yomer, like you're not actually doing as great as you think you are, and you need to kind of work on some things because we really are trying to protect future Mer in this instance. So this was really great to do. Then we get into the holiday page, which I like. They have it laid out, but to be honest, I don't ever really reference this page anyway, so it's just a little nice extra for me. Then I tipped in this little, I don't know, divider, I guess, and my intention was to kind of go and outline my goals and sort of like where I started, where I've gone, but I still haven't quite done this page, and I'm still not quite sure, I guess, what I want to do because it's sort of the opener page for the journal itself, not necessarily the month, because you'll still notice if I go through the months, there's no opener page leading into the calendar like some other planners. And sometimes the first day of the month is on the same spread, if you will, as the previous month, and that's just the way it goes, and it doesn't really bother me too much. I am used to where like the month happens and then you have like either your weeks or your days kind of following, but it's not a deal breaker for me. Okay, then we get into January. So this is the month of January. And in my old planner, what I was doing, I had a monthly layout, I had a weekly layout, and then the daily pages. What I was finding was I was logging everything to my monthly calendar, which I was pulling from my phone. And then I would also log the same things into the weekly component. And then, have my daily pages as my daily pages. It was so repetitive for myself. Like I really do like that vibe and feel when people do it. And some people just do wonderful layouts. It was just a lot because I do mainly rely on my phone, my iCal app on my phone, to kind of track all my events and activities and stuff, and to then mirror it into my planner, which is great because then it's something I can go back and look at. Whereas my phone, I probably won't ever look at my calendar a month ago. It just was too repetitive for me, and so I decided that going forward, I didn't want to use the monthly calendar as like a monthly calendar, and so I thought the best way to do was maybe like pull a pick a day. So my intent with the monthly calendars is really to, whether it's a quote or whether it's a photo from that day that I just really loved, I'm going to use that for my monthly calendar. So here's a couple things though. So these squares are not even, so they're not 1 by 1. So originally I printed these off at 1 by 1 inch, thinking they were, appropriate, but they are just slightly, they sit within the square, which is fine. But going forward, I'll make these a bit bigger. I'll make them like 1.2 by 1.2 probably in Canva, and then go from there. And then, the quotes are just sort of like what kind of comes up that day, or I'll go on Pinterest and find a quote that resonates for that day if I don't really have an image or an event that I want to capture in photo format. The other thing is that these are just Avery labels that I print on one large sheet and I cut out myself. So doing it this way is a bit cumbersome because I don't have the satisfaction of printing them on demand. So I kind of have to go through the month. I have my template in Canva, and I just kind of dump in photos periodically. And then once the whole month is done, I have a full sheet that I can print out. Then I'll print it out. So doing it that way, you have to be patient because I can't have that immediate satisfaction of doing it all or doing it as I go along because I just don't have that sort of tool, I guess, to do so. But my layouts are fairly simple. I use the Coffee Monsters. It's her sketches for the month as well as the washi strips because I feel like that's more than enough. And what I do with the sketches is I color them in and then I kind of just place them, around the layout. And then And I don't care. I usually put them down first. And so if a sticker overlays the, like if a picture sticker overlays the sticker itself, it doesn't really bother me too much because I kind of like that look. So I'll kind of go through the pages quickly. I'll just do a flip through and then I'll talk about the page quality itself. Okay, so those are some of my pages for January, or well, they're all of my pages for January. And so a few things that I will note. So the page quality is fantastic. I do love the thickness of the paper. So the paper is 120 GSM, bright white. Love that. I love the bright white look because it just feels fresh to me. Um, and then I just love the paper quality. I do love the size of it. Um, a few things for myself that I wish were different is I think the writing portion is small for a daily page. So I'll just look for like a brand new page so you can see. So this is what it looks like for a brand new page. And you have the schedule. So they don't have weeklies in the daily duos. It's basically your daily schedule and then a little, to-do checklist. So if you're using this as a true to-do planner for that day, then it's great. But honestly, for myself, like to make a task list, I don't want to be using an expensive planner book to just document my tasks. I don't know. I'm just not like that. I'd rather just use a Kelroy coiled notebook to do that, or my phone app or something. So this is sort of how it's laid out. So I would say, like you can see in January, I had a lot of thoughts about thoughts, and so I had a lot of tip-ins, extra paper to kind of like capture additional thoughts. And so this section here is where I would write in my daily thoughts or my prompts or whatnot. And then if I had more thoughts, I would tip in a page so that I could continue that thought process. So I would say the space is fairly small. The other part is I do love the daily schedule here because I do like to still see like what did I do that day when I'm flipping back through my journals, and maybe that kind of translates into like how I was feeling. Maybe I went on um, a coffee date or something and had a conversation that triggered me and gave me lots of thoughts, and so it's nice to kind of see any sort of correlation there as well. Typically there's really not a lot of correlation. Sometimes it's just me and my thoughts and then kind of what I was doing that day. The other thing is that I think because my brain is so structured, this is seeing this page this way, and this is something I'm working through myself, is like everything's boundaried, everything's set for me. This is the way I need to do it. It's that good student mentality. And so it's like, I have to do it this way. I have to do the schedule here. I have to do, this is a checklist. It took me a while to get over these little gray boxes because I don't use them. What I will say that's a huge pro is that the lines is very like a light gray scale. I'll see if you can kind of see it close up. So that's great because it actually helps my brain to be like, you know what, I can override these boxes. I can write over them. It won't matter. And you'll see here that I kind of do on some days. I write over them and you don't notice them. So that's perfect too. And then you'll notice in other days too. I believe I wrote over the weekly section as well because you don't really notice it. Like here, this is for February, but I write over them and you don't even notice it. So I would say that's a pro in the fact that it is a light kind of like gray color, if you will. The other thing is, so the way I'm using this planner, so I had to change a couple things up, but I do like the focus area because this kind of just drives what are the 3 tasks that I want to focus on today. And sometimes I only have 1 or 2 because it's sort of like maybe that's a really big task and I'm really not going to realistically, looking at my schedule, have time to commit to that. And so it allows me to kind of flex and use that space for it. The intention space, I wasn't sure and I'm still not quite sure what I'm doing with it. Sometimes I put a quote in there, sometimes I doodle, sometimes I art, sometimes I will write intention, sometimes I'll just use it for whatever I need to for that day, and sometimes it's just blank, and that's okay. I'm not, completely stuck on, having to fill that because I also don't mind the white space through the days because I don't want to be like so busy. And then for quality itself, so it holds washi tape great, it holds stickers great, decal's great. This I use actually, it's a nori paste. It's like a Japanese paste. It's sort of like almost like matte medium, but not quite. And so put it here, but it's very watery, right? So I find that this paper just absorbs water like crazy. And so you can see it, kind of took it in. And maybe I didn't feel like I put on too much, but maybe I did. And then this was already placed on before, and so it kind of buckled a lot. But again, not a deal breaker. If all my pages were like that, I probably wouldn't be too happy about it, but not a deal breaker. But I do love that it did, seal it quite well for the nori paste that I used, even though it caused some buckling. Um, Watercolor is also another thing that I find difficult. So I have these Caran d'Ache watercolor crayons, and while they're great, not the crayons itself, the paper I find if I color directly on the paper, it doesn't, because the water absorbs so quickly into this paper, it doesn't really seem to pick up the crayon and move it around fast enough. And so it's like my paper just buckles and the pigment just sort of sits there. So I'm not a big fan of that either. So I find that it's much better if you mix your paint, if you're doing watercolors or fountain pen ink coloring or whatnot. I find it's better to have it mixed in the consistency that you want, and then to apply it to the paper, and it seems to do a lot better. But I was hoping that I could just use my crayons on it and then do it that way, but that is not the case. So here's another example where I try to do, this was just, I think it's fountain pen ink. What did I even use? Oh, yes, fountain pen ink watercolor. So whatever that term is actually. I tried to, color it. This was inspired by a lady in the Coffee Monsters Co group. Actually, I think her tag is Rhea Journal. So if you want to go check her stuff out, she makes incredible layouts and has incredible lettering. But she also had posted about Dan Barr's numbering, which I wanted to kind of journal about because it gave me some food for thought. But look at the watercolor. So it kind of definitely bled through the ink. I mean, it was fairly heavy in some spots, but not overly so. But it sunk through and it bled through, so it wasn't, happy day. But I mean, I can live with some of it. I just don't want all my pages like that. And then when it comes to ghosting, I find, let me see if I can find a good sample of it. So you can see here, so like here I wrote green, and I think this is just the Tombow and fountain pen inks I colored it in. And you can kind of see the ghosting there. So, and you can see it on here too. So I have the zig dots here, and you can see the ghosting right in there. So again, not horrible. I wasn't really expecting it to not ghost and not bleed fully, but I thought it would. Honestly, I thought it was just typical. I didn't really realize anything until I noticed in the Hemlock and Oak group someone had posted about it, and I was like, oh, it's not typical from previous paper or previous books. But again, not a deal breaker. So I would say, like, all in all, overall, I do really like the book. I do really like the pages. I do like the size of it. It's not your typical 6x8. I find it slightly bigger. And they have the measurements on the website, so you can kind of go from there. But yeah, like it's like 6.25 by like 8 something, I think. Yeah, 8.5 or so. So I mean, if I can get my brain over this and I decide to not use the daily schedule, I can probably just journal through it, and that's fine. But I'm also happy to just tip in pages as I need to. Again, holds up to Tombow markers. There's a little bit of ghosting the Tombow Fudanosaki pens, but nothing that I would be like, oh my god, I can't, see this properly, and it's driving me crazy. And it does hold up to everything else great. And I do like the thick pages because when I write on the other side, I don't feel the stickers, the decal, or the washi or whatever that I've placed on the other side, which I really like. So again, overall, really enjoy this book so far. I do love putting tabs in there to kind of break up the months and be able to find them easily and access them easily. Oh my goodness, can't even speak. And then again, this pocket I have going forward, I don't think I'll put in a pocket for my 2027 if I decide to continue with Hemlock and Oak, because I don't use it. Like, what are we putting in here anyways? I don't know. I don't use it. But I'm also not a portable journaler. I don't bring my journals to different places to journal in. I typically journal at home, so all my stuff is sort of within reach, and so I don't really need to kind of jam anything in here. But I can see if maybe I had some loose photos and I want to tuck them in there, I could probably do that. But for now, it doesn't really have much use. Anyway, so that is my 2026 review for January and the overall book itself. Let me know what your thoughts are on, if you're a new user to Hemlock and Oak. Do you share the same views? Do you have other pros or cons that you that is or isn't working for you? Share them in the comments and let me know. And happy to connect there. Have a great day. Thanks so much.